Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Jim Colopy from the Stark County Community Action Agency. And you can find out more at sccaa.org or give them a call at 330-454-1676. Now, your area in particular is what?
I'm the director of the Home Weatherization Assistance Program.
And what does that mean?
Weatherization is not a familiar term to a lot of people. And the emphasis in weatherization is on improving the home's energy efficiency. So, for example, everyone's been at one point, whether you live in an old home or a new home, when you've been in an old home in the winter and you feel that the furnace is constantly kicking on to keep the house warm, or the wind blows and you feel the draft coming around the windows or under the door. Our goal is to make that house not just more comfortable and warmer, but to make it so that it's cheaper to pay that gas and electric bill. It's cheaper to keep that warm. We have a lot of residents in Stark County who are living in older homes. And when it gets down to 15, 20 degrees, and they have a furnace that's 40, 50, maybe 60 years old, that furnace can cost them $300, $400, $500, $600 a month to operate.
My goodness. Just
to keep that house at a livable temperature.
I don't think I knew that furnaces lasted that long.
They don't anymore. Okay. But some of the old ones they made were made to last.
Wow.
So the issue we run into is those furnaces that are 40, 50 years old, they're running at about 50 to 60% efficiency. Whereas the new furnaces are running at 90 to 95% efficiency.
Well, if you're paying $500-$600 a month, wouldn't it be cheaper to buy a new furnace?
If the person can come up with that amount of money all in one bulk. And that's what we run into.
Okay.
And the sad part is that a lot of people we come across haven't been paying their gas bill because that's how much it costs. Or they keep the house at about 45 degrees just so that they can keep the pipes from freezing because they can't afford to raise the temperature anymore.
Then you get into another issue with illness and so forth.
Exactly. So not just energy efficiency is the main focus, but we also want to address the health and safety of the home. We want to make sure that the residents and our clients are living in a home that's safe, not just for themselves, but for their family, their grandchildren, and their kids.
One of the things that people tend to do then is get a little heater that they can plug in, and not all of those are safe, are they?
Absolutely
Help us
not.
know more about that.
We do run across a lot of very old space heaters that may not have safety mechanisms. For instance, a good space heater will have some sort of safety on the bottom, so if it gets knocked over, it turns itself off automatically. We run into a lot of homes where they're using propane or kerosene heaters in the home, which
shouldn't breathe that, should you?
Are absolutely not safe. Now we're getting into carbon monoxide issues, which you won't know about. Carbon monoxide, you can't smell it, you can't detect it. The only thing that lets you know if there's carbon monoxide in the air is a carbon monoxide detector, which we see a lot of homes that are lacking those. So it's really important that people, if they're using supplemental heat, that they're using it safely and the proper way.
Do you help them with that as well? Identify the kinds of space heaters that are okay, or it's better to have central heating, yes?
Sure. So if someone applies for our program, typically the process is that we send out an initial inspector. So that inspector is going to come out. They're going to do a full evaluation of your home, your furnace, your hot water heater, your gas lines. They're going to look at your insulation, if you have any, how much do you have, where do you have it. And then they're also going to do a test that's called a blower door test. And what that test does is it actually tests your home's leakiness. It tests for air leakage. We take all of that information, we put it into a computer program, and it tells us what are the most cost-effective things that we can do to help you save the most amount of energy possible. While we're there, we're going to be looking at energy efficiency measures, but we're also going to be looking at health and safety measures. So one of the most common things we find are natural gas leaks. A lot of old homes have leaky gas lines. And while some people can smell it, some people are not sensitive to that smell.
Right.
And so that's one of the health and safety measures we most often correct as a part of our procedures. We also take a look at what heating you're using, whether it's an old furnace, a new furnace, if you could use a tune-up or repair, or if we can find you funding for a new furnace as well.
Do you do this for anyone, or do you need to qualify again for the program? And if you have to qualify, is there anybody who does this for anyone? Because that seems like a really good service that I think any of us could use.
Absolutely, and that's actually a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Our program specifically, it is solely for income-qualified people. However, there are programs available to everyone through your gas utility company.
Okay.
And I know specifically Dominion, which serves a large portion of your listening audience, has a program. I don't have that website available, but I know it's done through Dominion's website. So if you looked up Dominion Energy Audit would be what it would be called, you could find a place, and they usually do it for about, I think they charge $50, and that's
well spent.
That's supplemented by the gas company. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, yes. Got a confession to make here. I baked a blueberry pie last week, and it spilled all over the bottom of the stove. And so I thought, okay, well, I can't cook anything else until I get that cleaned up. So I turned it on to, oven clean temperature. Oh my, did that smoke? We had every door open. We had to, don't judge, take out the battery of the smoke alarm just temporarily and open all the windows. It wasn't that warm of a day. But, oh my gosh, you just don't realize some of the dangers in our appliances around us.
You don't. And unfortunately, when we go into those homes that aren't heating their house with a furnace or don't have a working furnace, the first thing they do is turn that oven up to high and open the door. And
a fire can start.
And believe it or not, if you have a gas oven, it also can produce carbon monoxide.
Oh,
it is not designed to be run constantly 24/7 as a heat source.
Oh my
goodness! It is something to be aware of. We don't all qualify for these programs, and a lot of your listeners don't have these issues. But I guarantee they know someone that does.
Mm-hmm.
I know they know someone that they may not know about it, but they're struggling to heat their home in the winter. They're struggling to keep their utilities turned on, and we just want to get the word out that this type of program is here. We don't want people to put themselves in harm's way just to keep the house a livable temperature.
What's your thought on wood-burning stoves or wood-burning fireplaces?
They can be a great source of heat as long as they're installed properly. You want to make sure that if you're going to get a wood-burning stove or wood-burning fireplace installed, make sure it's done by a professional. If you're moving into a new house that has a wood-burning fireplace, make sure you get that inspected. Make sure that it's safe to operate. Make sure the damper is able to be opened. That's one of the major sources of heat loss, actually. If you think about hot air rises naturally, a lot of people have a damper in their wood-burning fireplace that they never shut. Well, if they're not burning a fire, that hot air is able to go right out that big opening in that fireplace. So you want to make sure that you've got a damper that works both to open and close, and that the inside of that chimney has been inspected by a professional.
And then if you're burning wood, every once in a while, that creosote really does need to be cleaned out, doesn't it? We grew up with one, but we used to have a chimney cleaner come.
Right. With chimney sweeps, one of the oldest professions I can think of. So, yeah,
Mary
you absolutely
Poppins.
want to. You definitely want to consult with a professional.
Okay, now you said it's dangerous to rely on your gas oven to heat the home. What about your gas-burning fireplace? Is it okay to keep those going all day long? Because it's kind of nice.
Sure. And my opinion and my guidance with gas burning fireplaces is this: gas appliances, as long as they are burning efficiently and cleanly, only produce water vapor. They don't produce any other off gases. However, when those gas appliances get dirty, get older, get corroded, aren't burning as efficiently, that's when they start producing things like carbon monoxide. So gas fireplaces, as long as they're vented like a normal fireplace, are perfectly safe. Open the damper. You can use it as more of an ambiance. It's not going to be much of a heat source unless you're standing right in front of it, but it's nice for the ambiance. I don't necessarily like the unvented gas fireplaces. And the reason is this. Even if they're clean burning and not producing carbon monoxide, they're releasing a lot of moisture. They produce a lot of water vapor when they burn. So, and honestly, when I go in to do an inspection on the home, if there's an unvented gas fireplace burning in that house, I can tell by the humidity immediately when I walk in.
Really?
And it what it does is it'll increase the humidity in the home. It'll increase the moisture in the home, and that can lead to mold, mildew, things like that. So, as long as they're used properly, they're perfectly safe. As long as they're kept up, they're perfectly safe. But I lean more towards the vented gas fireplaces as opposed to the unvented.
Boy, houses, huh? They're always yelling for something to be done to them.
Beauty of home ownership.
Isn't it? Talk about the fuzzy tape that goes around the front door. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Weather stripping is a beautiful thing, especially when you've got an old house with old doors. None of them hang straight anymore. The door jambs are a little cattywampus. And weather stripping is one of the most cost-effective things you can do to reduce that air leakage around the door.
How important are storm doors? You're going to solve an age-old argument going on in our home because, okay, again, don't judge. I just don't like them. I think it's cuter to have a regular door, and I'd rather put a snake at the bottom, one of those little fabric snakes at the bottom of the door to keep the cold air out, and have a beautiful front door. Your opinion?
Honestly, it's and I don't want to get in any trouble. I think it has a lot to do with personal preference. If you're talking about cost-effective energy measures, energy-saving measures, a storm door is not going to save you a lot of money.
Is that right?
It is. If you have
Thank you, Jim.
If you have a good door, a solid, either a solid wood or an insulated metal, and you have good weather stripping and there's not a lot of air coming underneath it, a storm door is actually not going to save you a lot of money. If you want to talk about energy efficiency, you're better putting that money into insulation. Things really, attic and sidewall insulation are the best things you can do.
Thank you. You just got me a steak dinner. Tell us some of the life-changing things you've gotten to see through their work.
So the best story I can, and this is the one I always remember, is that when I first got into this program over 12 years ago, I did one of the first weatherization houses I had done, and I did the final inspection to look at all the work that we had done. And it was an older lady. She'd lived in the house for 40 years, and she came to me when I got there, and she said, "I just want to tell you, I've lived here for 40 years." And I went and made myself a cup of coffee this morning, and I pulled the coffee cup out of the cabinet, and I didn't have to warm it up with hot water before I put my coffee into it. It wasn't ice cold.
Oh my goodness.
And what that made me realize was that it's not the changes that we do to a house. The residents don't notice those changes necessarily in the energy bills or they notice it in the everyday activities. They notice it in that door that you normally walk by and feel that cold air, and then they walk by it one day and that cold air is not there anymore. They notice it in that cold coffee cup that they pull out of the cabinet, and they pull it out one day and it's not cold anymore. And it's just those very little experience, the small, normally forgettable experiences that you would never normally realize that's what people notice. And we truly do. When we get done weatherizing an old house, a 100-year-old house or an 80-year-old house, that house feels like a different house. It feels like you're living in a different house. It's quieter, it's warmer, the furnace doesn't run as often, the bills are cheaper. It's you feel more comfortable with your kids and your grandkids living in that house. So we make a huge impact on people's lives, and that's really what keeps me coming back to work every day.
So wonderful. If you know someone who might be needing some help, go to sccaa.org. Call 330-454-1676. That's 330-454-1676. Jim Colby, thank you for all you do in our community.
Thanks for having me.